vulnerability is such an important tool, and it's something that I really want to teach and put on a pedestal for everyone that is attracted to what I'm doing. This episode in particular really shows that, and I think the more honest and open that we are with the people that really matter, the more we can connect deeper with those people and not live in a life where, we're assuming each other's thoughts. Connecting and releasing, not for only them to understand what's going on in your heart, but to clear the air and make it really comfortable to exist and to create so much more beautiful memories, and to have that release it's so freeing and it's so liberating, and seeing Daniel achieve that is just incredible. Welcome back to part 2 with Daniel Ficco, where his vulnerability and honesty pours out into this episode. This is the story of how Daniel's second child, Micheal, was conceived, some of the hardest experiences that Daniel has faced today. Well, that's enough from me, guys. Let's jump straight in. Welcome to the Honesty Policy Hour. I'm your host, Stephanie Marie, and it's time to put everything on the table on this beautiful journey of healing all areas of our lives, one deep conversation at a time. Hi. How you feeling after part 1?
Good.
Yeah?
Different. In a good way. Talking, I don't know if we mentioned it before, but the first time actually talking about the journey has been on this podcast. So it's reflecting now means so much more than thinking about it and talking about it, but actually understanding what we've gone through.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's massive.
It's not just this is what happened. It's also, it's this push and pull of I'm so happy I've got my children, but the emotional roller coaster was such an incredible, hard journey. And it's trying to that push and pull of being grateful, but trying to reflect on a hard moment for you.
Challenges in my life have always been there, and it's never affected me the way the IVF journey did. With Melina and her journey I saw it one way. With Micheal and his journey, it just affected me a lot more in a way of challenge, but within myself.
Yeah. Because it brought up a lot from Melina's experience, and you're like, I have to do it again. It's like a continuation, or was it separate difficulties?
Separate difficulties.
Yeah.
I could imagine holding Melina. That was my goal. With Micheal, it was challenging because with his journey, it felt just like everything was against me. It felt like the doctors were against me. It felt like my wife Elise was against me. I felt it at a time where I felt not heard. No one ever asks the support person how they're doing. And if they do, I felt that it was not a sympathy, how are you doing? It was more like, protocol, we've ticked the box, we've asked the support person how they're doing, and okay, you're okay? Yeah, okay, move on. IVF is a journey, yes, the woman has to, or the person who is getting the treatment, it is on them. But there's also the second support person who it affects. And I believe, not just my experience, I think there is a window of opportunity for people to actually support others in this environment because it's unspoken of. We're the tough ones, we're the support. You don't really have to do anything. Well, no, I have to watch, I have to be there. The ups are all together, the downs are all together too.
Yeah. Because, I think I said this in the first part.
you're exactly those words. You're the support person. So when, but support, like I see this with relationships, right? Like for me and my husband, for example, when I'm going through a really hard time, he's not. So he can help pour his full cup into my empty cup.
Yeah.
And vice versa. When he's not doing well emotionally, I usually am. So it's my chance to pour my full cup into his empty cup. However, when you're both going through the same hardships and you're both empty, who pours into each other? And you are pouring from an empty cup because you are that exact person. You are that support person. So you are giving when you have nothing. And that is extremely hard.
I think on one of your other episodes, I can't remember whether it was with Connie or not, but they say a marriage is 50-50, and it's not. It's always, one's always up and one's always down. And when I heard that for the first time, it really hit home of what you're saying now, that it's never 50-50. And that's why the flow changes. And the way you just put it then, you're pouring out of an empty cup. There's also that selfless feeling of, I can't be selfish in this moment because they need me. That the person and, my wife needs me to be as strong as I can because physically I can't take the injections. I can't be mum. So with Michael's journey, I had my heart set on the one embryo, and that failed. So for me, I didn't mourn. It was just, it happened. And it wasn't until after Michael was born that it came up and sort of bit me in the bum. On your episodes as well, one thing I had no knowledge about was how emotions come up in pregnancy and how things will come up. I was naive to that, and reflecting on it now, Michael being born and afterwards, a lot came up, a lot, and Michael is just the happiest boy in the world. Like he's literally my little man, and even at the start of his journey in this world now, reflecting on it, he wasn't like terminally sick, but he wasn't right. We ended up in hospital a few times. Looking back on it, I still believe now that those things were coming up through him as well. And now as we're 13 months down the track with Michael, he's just shining bright because we are releasing all this energy that we have stored.
You're doing the work.
Yeah.
You're doing the work. And this is going back to our relationship and who we are as people, where me as a kind of holistic mum, natural mum, tapping into, spiritual, emotional needs and all that sort of stuff, where you are too, but I think the decisions that we make as parents are a little bit different and the way we run our lives are a little bit different. However, when life gets tough and we see that there's holes that need to be filled or there's a void that needs attention in our lives, it always goes down to the work, regardless of your view of the world, regardless of who you are as a person or how woo-woo or spiritual or whatever you are, it's still the same shit. You still have to do the work, and you see that. It's visible because when you give it a little bit of water, how you were saying in the first episode, you water that plant once and already you see green leaves spitting up and you're like, it works. Yeah. It works. I give love to what requires love and the love comes back to me. It's beautiful. So the fact that, we say this all the time, like sometimes it's really hard to acknowledge issues when it comes up at the time because you don't know how to deal with it. You know what I mean? Like, what the fuck do I do? Like,
it's easier to run.
It's easier to run. So easy. And, going in there and being uncomfortable and dealing with the shit, sitting in the mud, no one wants to do that.
I heard this yesterday for the first time. There's the cow mentality and then there's the bull mentality. The cow mentality is, this is in a nutshell, a storm's coming. A herd of cows will go the opposite way and go away from the problem. A bull's mentality, like we all know, goes straight into it.
Yeah. Get it over and done with.
Yeah, you're going to enter it, you're going to do it,
Yeah.
and then you're going to get out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it is intimidating to think about. And sometimes, you know, I'll be the first to admit it, you lose your way and go, you know what, I don't want to deal with it. I physically know I'm not, don't want to do it. It has come back and said no, because guess what? The cows still end up in the storm. They're just moving with the storm.
Mm-hmm. They just have to deal with it longer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's...
But hats off to you doing it. You know, it's so easy to keep running away from the storm, but you're not.
No, not... Now I don't think there's an option for me, personally. I don't think there's any option. Like, I'm at a point in my life where I'm facing everything, including myself. And with Michael's RVF journey, I can blame everybody, but the truth is I didn't voice my opinions loud enough at a time where I think it was very important for me to voice, and without feeling like I was going to hurt someone's opinion or their feelings or their emotions. It's okay. I'm looking back on it now. It's okay for me to have those emotions of I disagree. I didn't want things to happen in a certain way. I didn't feel comfortable. Where when you go into the IVF world, they do throw all these statistics at you, and I know it, but I didn't feel like it was feeding my positive purpose. All it did was feed the negative.
Yeah.
Grow the negative.
Yeah, and that I think that fear that you had in you of people's negative can make your situation negative. I think, you know, if that thought was at the front of your mind, that's you actually adding to that as well.
100%.
So you would have felt in that constant fear zone of this is not as positive as I want the experience to be. But just going back to Melina's quickly, did you feel that was a positive experience?
I think it started off positive.
Yeah.
I saw the negative of I knew that something had to change. It was too stagnant. And then...
when you were with Monash?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it wasn't until Elise felt the same way, and then all of a sudden we were brought back to united as one, to then say, okay, we both agree that wasn't working for us.
Mm-hmm.
Then you go over to number one fertility, and the way they made Elise feel was amazing. They were positive. They would... something as simple as, I still remember with Melina, and I can't remember if I said this in the first episode, but as Lynn was doing the transfer, she actually said, you know, this is going to work, this is going to work, this is going to work. That, for me, was setting the intention. That, for me, was that, you can call it holistic approach, where she said, you know, she put it in there that it was going to work.
Manifestation.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
A perfect word. And when it came, like, with Melina and number one, it was very simple. We did what we needed to do. The levels were correct. It worked.
Bang. Yeah.
Then you put your faith in them again, and it starts off as the same journey as Monash, where they still did things differently. Everything was still, the way I can put it, Monash was very dark, very, what's the word? Sterile hospital environment. Whereas number one fertility is bright. They call their clinic the Pink Palace. They call everything is bright. The walls in the rooms are pink. The couches are pink. They call where they do the They call one part of their clinic Emerald City, and it's all green. Like, they just bring that positivity. But then when you're starting to feel like this positivity is being questioned again by the doctors that you have trusted, that have given you Melina, I just felt, okay, and they're feeding the growth of that positivity, but they're also going back to questioning what they can do next because things started not to work again. And with the journey, there wasn't the fact that we couldn't get embryos. Elise at one point was overstimulated, so then there was another side effect. So then there were different challenges with Micheal. They were, again, going into that we don't know basket. Elise's body didn't. There was a chance that I was hopeful in, that the doctors had said that once Elise had one baby, like the pregnancy, that the way that could have started was, it would have kick-started her brain to all of a sudden know what to do. We did all the tests, they came back flat. So that the possibility of that was also the beginning of Michael's IVF journey. So we were hit with, no, unfortunately, your hormone levels are flatlined. So we have to go back to the start. Then we couldn't get the lining right on the thickness of her lining on the uterus wall. So it didn't matter what embryo we were going to place there. So we were going through the stage of doing all the injections, getting ready for a transfer date, having the embryo ready, but then on the transfer day her lining wasn't right. And they told us we needed to get to a certain number. I think it was 6 mil.
Isn't that crazy though? Like, just interrupt quickly. Every time I speak to Elise about this, like, because she's been through this situation, she knows everything about the woman's body. And I think when you fall pregnant naturally, you have no friggin' idea how in depth it is. And she said, Elise said this to me as well. She's like, it is a miracle, an absolute miracle. Everything has to be lined up perfectly in order for you to fall pregnant and to conceive. And it's I think, what was it, like a 10% chance that something about ovulation? Like, she said some statistic to me and I was like, see, I don't know all this stuff. Like, I don't know the specifics of all of it, where she's just so informed, like, incredible. It's beautiful to see, but it's like, it's a miracle. It is such a miracle. And when you, like, go see how hard your journey was and how much you had to go through, and you're not even the worst story of some,
no.
You know?
It's the word miracle when it comes for our story of having our two beautiful children. The knowledge that we've got.
It's amazing.
And around us now, It is amazing. We've even got, like, for us, the journey's completely different. Like, even coming into knowing that you're pregnant and the joyful part of it, with Number One Fertility, they actually video your embryo growing. So we have the video of Micheal.
Stop, really?
From blastocyst. You can see the embryo doubling, quadrupling, keeps going. And we've got the video of it. And you go, okay.
No way.
You go into, jumping off topic, but
yeah, that's okay.
It's such a beautiful thing to watch where we can show Micheal, like, what happens usually in the bedroom and intimate. Like, we've got it from, like, literally his cells forming. So there are many joyous parts of IVF, obviously. It's going into the world that IVF is still a medical profession. It's still...
it's a business.
It's a business.
Yeah.
And not to put a dampener on it, I've sent mates, because it's really intriguing for me, because I'll get the randomest phone call off a guy. Can I meet up and chat? I know straight away
what it's about. But this is what happens when you're so open about your journey.
Yeah.
And, I've experienced the same thing with the podcast, or, I've mentioned something and people are like, oh, can we talk a little bit about this situation? And it's really beautiful because you're offering, you just mentioning your hardships and what you've been through is somebody else's gift to help them. And, if this is what we're all here to do, we're here to be of service to everybody. And if I can help anybody with my traumas and my situation, like you showed me a video before, your trauma is the worst but the best part of your life.
It's your gift.
It is your gift.
Yeah.
It is the fact that you can sit there and go, yeah, this was the most fucked up time of my life.
Yeah.
However, I am the person I am today, and I got out of that shit time because of it, and I am so grateful for it.
Yeah.
I think about the three hardest times in my life, and at the time they were awful, but I look back now and I thank God for them.
And it's made you who you are today.
I don't know who I would be without those gifts.
Yeah. And I will say this, when someone does ask about IVF and who to go to, who to turn to, I always say to them, you will hear the best stories from the people who are successful.
Mm-hmm.
You will hear the worst stories over the people who are unsuccessful. And like I said at the start of the first episode, I don't believe that the doctors are out there to take your money and not get you pregnant. I do believe that their intentions are always to get you pregnant. I've sent people to Number One Fertility that have hated the experience and left. We had a experience with Number One, and I have my two children through Number One Fertility.
Everyone's different.
Yeah.
Everyone is so different. Like when it comes to GPs or anything, gyms, whatever it is.
Everyone's journey is different.
It's different. Like you could have the best success story and the best beautiful, you go to the gym and you lost 20 kilos and, you loved everyone there, and someone could have the complete opposite experience.
Yeah.
It's so personal, and this is when you are recommending, this is what you say. And usually when you are recommending, you need to know who that person is. Yeah. Are we the same? Are we like-minded? Do we believe the same things? Do we want the same outcome? Like, those are really good things to kind of level, like to have a plain understanding when it comes to recommending.
And this is why with Elise, she's amazing when it comes to her knowledge of what questions to ask. Because not every question gets asked.
No.
And, is there a possibility that we can do this test or that test? We were unfortunate that the doctors that we saw didn't offer what was out there.
With who?
Monash.
Okay, with Melina.
With Melina.
Her first child.
So, finding the information ourselves, and it's a growing business, as in it's a growing industry, like it's only getting better.
Mm-hmm.
And the rates of people that are actually turning to IVF for help are only getting higher, which, for whatever reason, we can go back to the foods that we eat, we can go back to our upbringing. For our situation with Elise, it wasn't a question of her body being healthy. Her body is healthy. She's a healthy person. For whatever reason, that was our journey. And we didn't question why she couldn't have children. We questioned how can we get pregnant? And then...
Possibilities, not problems.
Exactly. And again, looking at Elisa's journey medically, she's always had to have decisions made for her, and we've only realised that now. We were only talking about this the other day, and when she said it, I never realised it. And it was like, growing up with her growth hormone deficiency, she was told, this is what you need to do. And then when it came to IVF, this is what you need to do. It was sort of like, she said it the other day, and it was just so in my face of, wow, like you have just been told what to do.
Yeah, you're at the mercy of the system sometimes.
And, we've got our children. We've still got one embryo frozen. We don't know, we will not discard it, it will not be tested for information. When the time is right, we will give it another go. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
You won't go down the path.
No, there's no more journey for us.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be up to fate
Mm-hmm.
whether Elisa's body will accept it or not. And I think that's at ease as well. That's going to be the point for us of really understanding what we've gone through.
And this is the end of your IVF journey.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about Michael's journey. So when the embryo didn't work at the start, where did it get tough for you?
So when Melina's embryo twin was unsuccessful, I hid away.
Sorry, Melina's, it split.
No, so what happened when we say no, so it only splits when it's transferred in the woman.
Okay, so what do you
So
mean by twin?
We say twin embryo because when you do an egg collection, they are all batched in the one batch. So they grab Elisa's eggs that they physically went in and got.
Mm-hmm.
Then they grab my sperm, and there's two ways they can do this. They can pour over natural selection. So literally, they pour my sperm in a little dish, and they can't remember if we actually spoke about this or not on the last one. But both Melina and Michael, with Melina was a batch of 3 embryos. So we call them embryo twins.
Twins, okay, gotcha.
So they're not physically twins,
Yeah.
but they were conceived
At the same time.
and created on the same day.
Gotcha.
And then that batch goes into the freezer.
Okay, so Melina's worked, so then there was another one that was left
So
over.
there was 3.
There was 3, okay.
There was 3.
Yeah.
Now, at least should be able to tell you this. I can't remember the specifics, but one worked, which we got Melina.
Mm-hmm. And
One
then you
bef-
stopped.
One before didn't work.
Yeah.
Then we got Melina, so there was one there, or there could have been 2. I can't remember. But Melina had, when it came time to go back to try for the second, we thought, why would we put all our eggs in one basket and give this one a crack?
Mm-hmm.
Why don't we try to do the FSH, which is the timed intercourse again, but with Lynn's medication, number 1's medication.
Yeah.
So we thought her medication worked first. Why don't we just give it a go? And it's not as invasive.
Mm.
We still get to have that connection physically, and we thought we'll give it a crack.
Yeah.
When that didn't work, so that was a lull. So you go up, and then you come down. Then it's, okay, we're going to try for this embryo twin. And this is at the stage where Elisa's lining wasn't correct. And they told us that we need to get to 6 mil. I'm using that as a... I'm pretty sure it was 6 mil, but around that. We do the medication for the 2 weeks, 3 weeks. They overstimulate Elisa's body at one time, so that's a transfer. You can't transfer it. They can't get the lining right. There was another one. Nah, can't get the body right, can't transfer it. So we're not physically doing a transfer, but we're going through the 4 weeks of trying, and going, nah, we're going to start again.
Yeah. Damn.
Then we decide, okay, so then we get to the room. We're about to transfer, so we do one more 3 or 4 weeks of injections. We get into the room, and she tests her lining, and the way they test her lining is it's an internal ultrasound. We get in there, and before we got in there, Elisa and I said, if it's not at 6, we're not doing it. I'm not risking this embryo. We get in there, there's a nurse, there's Lynn, they do the internal, and it comes up on the screen, so I can see the numbers. And the numbers at around a 4 or 4.2. She takes the ultrasound out, and she goes, I think we should transfer. So my face said it all. And she said, she goes, you don't agree? And I said, no, I don't. Her words were, "We have given and thrown everything at your wife. This is as best it's going to get. This is your best chance." And I'm in my mind, I'm sitting there and Elise is looking at me, and Elise has just got these hopeful eyes that no, I don't want to go through another round of injections. I just want to transfer. And I'm sitting there and I'm going, "You're going to transfer Melina's twin embryo when you told me that it had to be 6 and it's at 4. What's going on in my mind?"
Yeah, you're taking the piss. What are you doing?
My mind's going, you might as well just not do it.
Yeah.
I know that's not the right way to think, but it's how I felt. And instead of saying it, I looked at Elise and I said, "Do you want to do the transfer?" She said yes. And I said, "I don't. But if you think it's the right thing to do, we'll do the transfer. It's our decision." We did the transfer. 2 weeks later, so you have to wait for the 2 weeks. 2 weeks later, get a phone call. No baby. She's not pregnant. For me, in that moment, was the reality of, I keep saying looking back, but reflecting on that moment now was a wedge that had been put in between my wife and I. There's nothing more hurtful for me than now, the way I look at it, as not being heard in that moment. It wasn't Elisa's fault. It wasn't really Lynn's fault. But I didn't voice my opinion strong enough. I can't tell anybody why I was attached to this embryo. I loved the fact that it could have been a story for Melina to say, we were actually conceived on the same day, but we're 3 years apart. I felt a connection to this embryo, and when I say I mourned it, I by myself mourned it. And when the time comes where they tell us that you're not pregnant, they tell Alicia you're not pregnant over the phone, yet we had a cry, yet who's asking me? When nobody asked me. Nobody. You get the general, "Oh, how you doing?" But by this point, I don't want to talk to anybody. I already feel alone. I already feel like I've literally been pushed to the corner, and you know me pretty well. I don't like that. And not being able to actually say like how hurt I was, all it did was send me down a dark path of holding in everything that I didn't care. I didn't want to tell anybody the way I felt, because I had already felt like a failure. Looking at it now, again, it's no one's fault, but if I had just literally stuck to my opinion of, no, I don't want to use this embryo, sorry, maybe it would have been different. I can't change what happened. All I can do now is acknowledge, okay, it didn't work. And yes, I've got Michael. I love Michael. And funnily enough, I've got an embryo, his twin embryo, that I'm a bit scared to say I'm attached to it, but I never wanted 3 children. Will I give this a go? Yes, I will, because, again, taking that away from my children, for when you've got a frozen embryo, you're already depicted as it is yours, as in they are your children. I know some people might turn around and go, it's only an embryo. When you work so hard to get it, you automatically are already a parent, and you already feel that parent protective vibe towards it.
I feel that tenfold with just the way you're talking about it. Just to go back, when you said you felt like a failure, why did you feel like a failure?
Because I wanted it to work, and it didn't.
Is it because you didn't use your voice?
Yeah.
So hindsight, If you were there again, would you have pushed it?
I would have pushed, knowing now, I would have pushed no. And I've said that to Elise. I said if I had was put in the same position again, I would react differently. I let anger get in my way. I wasn't clear with myself. I wasn't open with myself. There were feelings and emotions that I didn't want Elise to have to go through anymore. But I also have to be true to myself, which I wasn't.
Yeah, that's a big one. You know, you're there as a support person, as your wife's protector, to be there for her. But it's really hard when you have to squish your beliefs and your emotions down in order to make that happen. However, it's no one's fault. Like you said, you were just trying to help her as well as not be true. Like you weren't clear with who you are, and all Elise was hanging on to was the doctors. She heard a bit of hope, so she jumped on it like any woman would have done.
Which I wanted to be hopeful too.
Of course, a little bit of you thought, but when you heard that we're not pregnant, I get feelings of rage.
I wasn't upset. I was angry.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I was at that point
I fucking told you.
Like, you told me an equation.
Yeah.
And
you went against it.
You went against your word.
Yeah. Yeah, and you have every right to. You have every right to be angry. I feel rage just thinking about the situation.
The worst part of, and again, it didn't get any better for me then. That's when I started to shut off emotionally to everybody. And then you're at a point of, okay, you've got no embryos left. You've just used the one that I know we all wanted them to work, but that one got me. Now we've got nothing. Now we have to start all over again.
Fuck.
And we did. We started all over again.
How long was this into you starting? So you started with when Melina was 1?
Yeah.
When was this now?
Well, we did another cycle.
So after
after we got the note, we did another cycle. We took a break that I needed to calm down, and I think Elise needed to calm down. And her body is full of artificial hormones. And then, so you go through, so she ended up getting a period, so you have to force that. We started again. I don't know the time frame, but we started again.
Like roughly a year?
Oh, within months.
Months.
No,
okay.
no, within months.
Okay.
We then so we start back from the start. So now we go back to all the way to egg collection, and we get an egg collection, and you get all these eggs, and then you got to wait to see how many eggs have follicles, or follicles turn into eggs, one of the two. We ended up with 2. So we might have had 10 to start off with. We ended up with 2 eggs that lasted till day 5 with my sperm. And again, I keep trying to get this out and I keep distracting myself. The embryos that we created are the natural process. You can also do something called EXI, where they literally come in, they grab my sperm with a needle and they inject.
I've seen that before, yeah.
And that's more like, that one's moving, I don't know how they choose, but that one's moving, let's just inject that sperm. Whereas both Melina and Micheal were of natural selection. Okay. So Michael's sperm was attracted to Elise's egg, like the natural process, and that's how it was created. We ended up with 2. So then we get to, again, I'm still angry. I'm still holding in all my emotions and storing them. So you could imagine the type of person I was at that time.
Yeah.
I wasn't the most supportive person that I could have been.
And you wouldn't have been in your body either. You would have just been super tense.
Yeah.
How were you physically at this stage? Like with your health and everything like that?
I was actually exercised because we were in peak COVID, and I was told that I've got this gene which my mother's got, and she's got a heart condition, and I was told that I had a hyperprotein A, and I'm a high candidate for heart disease. So I went on a strict diet, and I was exercising more than ever. So physically, I was actually at my physical peak.
Yeah, so you were getting some rage out.
Yeah. I was 13 kilos lighter.
Yeah, that's right. You were the fittest.
Than when we had were trying for Melina.
Yeah.
I lost 13 kilos. I was exercising. I was boxing, which for me was a godsend.
Yeah.
But emotionally, I was storing all this rage.
Yeah.
We get the eggs. We've got 2 embryos now that are ready to go. We're either going to freeze them or do a fresh transfer. And the success rate is higher if you do a fresh transfer. So we're like, okay, we'll do a fresh transfer. We go through the motions of the fresh transfer. We get into the transfer room. Elisa's lining, well and truly above 6.
Oh, amazing.
And I wish I would have thought it was then. But all I could think of was that embryo. In a time where I should have been happy, I had concentrated myself to be angry with Lynn because her words were, this is the best that we've done. She's not going to get any.
And now it's the best. And we could have waited.
Yeah. So I put the thought process out to anybody to put themselves in my shoes for a minute. And I know that I should have been happy that her lining was good, but all I could think about was, you told me that we weren't going to get to this. I wasn't happy. I was happy that we were pregnant, but I wasn't thinking about that. I had that much emotion of anger that all I could concentrate on was
the anger.
It was
Crazy.
You lied or you got it wrong.
Yeah. Isn't it crazy how stored energy can do that to a person?
Mm.
It can take away every ounce of happiness when a room is full of it because of something that hasn't been processed.
Yep.
And that's why it's so important, men especially who, are not great at communicating based on the way their grandfathers communicated, their fathers communicated, how don't be a girl, don't cry, all these shit that men have to deal with on a day-to-day basis, but also trying to be there for their partners, or it's just swallowing all these shit that can, do more long-term damage. And it's just, it's heartbreaking.
Looking back on it now, it really is actually nice to say it out loud that I wasn't happy for the right reasons when Micheal was, when Elise felt pregnant with Micheal.
So her lining was great and
her lining was better and Micheal was successful.
Oh, amazing. Okay. But yeah, you weren't focusing on that.
Not at that time.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
And I've actually never said that until right now.
Oh, how's it feel?
Yeah, you can say I'm getting emotional, but it's, you can't process it until, acknowledging it now is acknowledging the emotions that were actually happening. I went through that. When she fell pregnant with Micheal, it was a very confused time for me. The only thing I could think of was, Elise is going to be happy because she's pregnant. And Elise's mindset was, once I'm pregnant, Elise was just a glowing pregnant woman. Like, she just owned it. It made her feel so happy. And it showed. It was also challenging because you've got another little one to worry about.
Mm-hmm.
And we were in the middle of COVID as well.
I remember saying to Elise, Atlas was, what are they? They're like 5 months apart, 6 months apart?
Michael's 14 months.
14, Atlas is 20.
Yeah.
So I remember when we came to see you at home after Micheal was born, and this was like peak shit sleep for Atlas, and I was just like so tired, and I'm like, how's it all going with everything? And she's like, I don't care if I don't sleep because I have my baby. And I just remember, like, the harder times are for you, the easier it is for you to deal with hard moments because you've already been through your shit. You've already been through your stuff of I had to climb Mount Everest to get our 2 kids, but we got them, and everything that comes after these hardships is just kind of secondary, if it's depending on obviously what it is. So I remember those words that stuck in me because I can imagine.
And I sympathise with, and I mean this with all sincerity, when you were having those sleepless nights, and I saw how the struggle, like, again, Melina was a sleeper, so we weren't used to it. Michael wasn't a sleeper, so the challenge just started again.
Yeah.
And I sympathise with you because then all of a sudden Michael wasn't sleeping, and I'm going, okay, not to compare, but it was like, okay, I think this is what Steph was talking about, and wow, like it is a full-on experience. It's challenging. And even for me, I was like, oh, no, you just harden up. No, like, sleep deprivation is real.
It makes sense why it was a form of torture in World War One. I think it was. It makes sense. You're not rash. Every rational logic is out the window. You're functioning on autopilot. You're running on the absolute bare minimum. It's not an easy thing.
No. And I just want to say one other thing with the two IVF journeys with Melina. We found out that it was a girl.
Did you? You found out, that's right. You did too. I feel like it was a lifetime ago now.
And I remember sitting at Fitzsimmons Lane before it was when it was a roundabout, and Elisa's like, "You can go." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" She's like, "What are you thinking about?" I said, "We just found out we're having a girl." I was like shocked. With the most beautiful part of Michael's journey was we didn't know we were having.
That's right. Yeah.
So that excitement started to build, and when we went into, Elise had a season for both, and when we went in, it was calm, and I watched the video over and over again because I love capturing those moments, and seeing Michael come out, and it's a boy, and it was just like,
oh shit!
Fuck! I've got that moment of, wow, I've got a son, and you've got your daughter, and again, this is different for you because you've got Atlas, and I'm like, wow, like I've got my daughter who, it's brought out a real big feminine side in me, but now I've got my son, and it's an amazing feeling.
It's so hard to imagine yourself being a parent to an opposite sex when you've just had the one. I remember you saying it like, I'm a girl dad. I can't be a boy's dad. I don't know how to be. Yeah. And I just remember you just comparing the wiping. It's just like, the girls are so much easier. There's just so much going on with the boys.
Again, with being a father to Melina, changing Melina, I had to learn. I still never forget this in the hospital. First time, wipe up, and the nurse and Elise both screamed at me, "No, wipe down!" Oh my God. And then, I'm going to say this. Michael has never peed.
No?
Not once. With his nappy off. With me.
Really? There you go. Atlas used to always pee on Mark. He never peed on me, though.
Yeah, and everyone's like, you can buy these things that shield, and I'm like, shield?
Sweet.
What are you talking about? He doesn't do anything. And, again, I found with Michael, there's just so much going on that you have to... It was just, even tonight. But, it's come to a point now that with Michael releasing all this energy, I'm only seeing Michael grow now.
It's so interesting seeing when you do self-development work while you have children, what they are before and after or during that transition. You see a different child. Yeah. They mirror you so much. Oh. And it's so interesting to see, but it's such a gift because if you know that if I'm better emotionally, so is my kid. So that is so much more motivation in order to get better and to develop every day.
Like being in the thick of it where you can get so frustrated at your children
course.
And how you react. They're watching. And, you know, like, it's just, it's amazing how we do this breathing technique with Melina, and she'll, you know, if she's getting a little bit out there, I've taken your advice with the dance party, and that's what I do now because it just works. It's
It
like,
does.
thank you for that.
No worries.
But the breathing, and it's really funny because she's getting all, worked up and starting to cry, and she does the whole sobbing, and it's like, okay, we're gonna just sit down, get to her level, yeah, and we're just gonna breathe. My parents never taught me how to breathe, like ever. No,
I love how you laugh about it because it's so foreign.
But it is like, and you get Melina.
Oh, because she's crying. She's
Yeah.
so upset.
And it's just beautiful. Like, and all of a sudden she changes. Maybe that's, something that if we had that as kids, we would have probably acted different as well.
Of course. But this is where we're cutting that ancestral trauma, if you want to call it. We're cutting it. But, we're all doing the best we can with the knowledge that we have, and internet connections where we're a lot more better communicators than what the previous generation were. Well, with me and you, I know are. And a lot of our tribe and friends and family are exactly the same. However, we're doing the best we can, and so did they. They had no idea.
Yeah.
They had no idea how to regulate their emotions. It was based on suppressing, like you did. Like I've done it previously. We suppress, we bottle it in. We don't talk about it until we feel like we're forced to.
Yeah.
And then we feel the comparison, okay, I let it out. Yeah, it's uncomfortable, but I feel 1,000 times better afterwards.
And that's again, going back to what is their knowledge, what they experienced from their parents. We all know how loving our grandparents are,
Yeah.
but we also know how hard they would have been as well.
Yeah.
So you take it as, I look at them now and I look at my parents and go how much they've changed since becoming grandparents.
They're different. They're
Right.
different. I'm like my mum. And she's like, it's good. Like, my mum was always a sweetheart as a mum, but it's just seeing her as a grandmother. Oh my God, it's a different line, isn't it?
Yeah, and I knew Mum. Mum was always a born grandmother. Like, she's just amazing. And so are my in-laws. But seeing my dad, and again, my dad, if he ever actually listens to something like this, which I don't think he would, but my dad's become my best mate. And as a kid, I barely had a relationship with my dad. I don't remember having a relationship with my dad. Whereas now, I think it's beautiful to see how he has changed with having a granddaughter.
It's the love that you feel. You wanna keep riding that love wave. Like, I see that with Atlas, just as an example. Like, he experiences one little dopamine hit of excitement. He's like, more, whatever it is. If I'm doing something stupid, or he likes something and he just wants to feel like that always.
Yeah.
And that's just a small example of what we do. We feel a love on a different level as an example of being a grandparent, and you want to keep that. You want to see them all the time. You want to feel that love, because as a 67-year-old grandparent, you've had a lifetime to feel the pits of the pit.
Yeah.
And when you feel the ultimate love, you know what both feel like. So you would always choose love. Who wouldn't?
100%.
So it's really beautiful. That's why we said before, traumas are fucked, but they're also your gift. They're your medicine. They're your foundation of who you are.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting, seeing that, and the wisdom that you get from even your 20s to your 30s. And I can see that now going into the next stage of our lives as we enter our mid-30s.
I'm still younger than you, and I'll always be younger. No, I just want to say thanks, because it's been a challenge for me personally to actually look at myself and say, you know what, I'm allowed to fuck up. I'm allowed to feel certain ways, but if I can just let it out. And it's coming at a time where I think we're all going through this at the moment, and it's really interesting because I speak to so many people a day with the cafe, and we just, it seems like it's just on the cards at the moment. And not to sound spiritual or, the universe, but I truly believe, we are all at a point now where the challenges are high and we're learning to get through it.
well, we're all connected, and it's so obvious when we go through the same shit at different times, like different shit, but same hardships.
Yeah.
We're all going through hardships at the same time.
Yeah.
And it just shows the connection that we have as individuals. And it's nice to know that, you know, we're not alone in this journey and that we do have each other's back. But the key word, as we said before, is all vulnerability. Being brave enough.
That word.
It's scary.
It is, but it is. Being vulnerable for me used to be, and again, honest, it was a weakness, which it's not. Being vulnerable is probably being more powerful and more
courageous. It takes balls to be. It takes a lot of balls to be vulnerable. It's a scary thing. Vulnerability has always been something that I've seen power at a young age, and I've known, not young age, but I see that when I'm vulnerable in front of people, people mirror that. And I saw that happen. I was like, this is great. Like people that, including yourself, that I had never really seen it, but the minute I did it, it gave people the permission to do the same. And this is one of the big reasons why I started this podcast, because it's like you said, it's such medicine after. Yeah, it's shit at the time, but it gives you this emotional freedom to be like, oh, I can breathe.
feeling one way, acknowledging it, but knowing everything will be okay.
It always is.
It'll pass.
It always is.
Yeah.
Shit times are so temporary, but so are good times.
Yeah.
And that's a gift, knowing that too, because enjoy it. Be in that moment. Don't pretend, don't wish the stuff away that doesn't really matter, because at the end of the day, you've got the good bits.
Yeah. It's been fun.
It's been really fun. Tell me, give the cafe a bit of a plug. I'm not just saying this, but I've had your coffee for, like, you've been making coffee for most of our adult life. And every time I go somewhere else, I'm like, fuck, Daniel makes a good coffee. You really do. I'm not just saying this.
I take pride in the shop. I love the shop. Bobby Beans, Baldwin North. Yeah, I fell into coffee. I love coffee. I love what coffee does for people. It brings people together. And that's the thing, like, again, challenges with the shop, up and down. When I'm not, one thing I've realised in the past 12 months, now the shop's been there for 8 years, you all knew that I was going to be in that field.
100%.
I still remember my first night when you guys came down and it was like, you said to me, I still remember this, you've done it, you're here. And like, I just get goosebumps thinking about it, and I'll go, you know what? I'm 8 years down the track, I'm confident. I love my product. I'm very proud of my product. I think the love that goes into it. But when
it speaks volumes.
When I'm not there, or when the IVF journey did take me away from my dream, as in I wasn't working as much in the shop.
You had other priorities.
Yeah. And then I realised, like, we'd go on holiday and Elise would be like, you miss the shop. I'm like, I miss the shop. The shop's me. So you get caught up in this whole business thing, you know, like, I've got to have a business but not work it. No. My shop is my sanctuary. It's my home.
It's an extension of you.
Yeah. And when I'm not there, like,
I get sad when I go there when you're not there. I'm like, no.
But it's a different feel when I'm not
completely. But I still feel you.
Yeah.
Because it's so much. It is you. Like I said, it's an extension of you. So it's like it's Daniel's. It's still there.
The shop for me is, I love my product. We have our own coffee blend. I don't roast anymore. I used to roast back in the day. For me now, we've found someone who can create the blend that we want. We market it and brand it for ourselves. No one else has got it. I'm proud of my product, and you know, if anyone ever wants to come and try, I'm always down, and I love meeting people. My favourite question at the shop when I meet someone is, what do you do for a living? And the amount of people we get to meet is just incredible. And what they do is incredible.
You get to see the way people live differently. And like, as you said, like in the first episode, like, I don't understand it, but I want to know more. Like, because it's, I don't know anything about this. Tell me.
Yeah.
And having those conversations and learning new things every single day is such a gift.
Going back to knowledge is power. And meeting different people, it's funny because we can have the same conversation, and at points I change my opinion just to get a reaction. It's sort of a game. Especially the whole COVID thing. The COVID thing was great because 1 minute, that I'm full, with the people that I need to be with. I'm COVID safe and I've this and that and whatever. The next person comes in, screw the vaccine. Yeah, screw the vaccine. I don't care. I didn't allow that to care, but we actually had fun with the topics and even with AFL, with the way the general
where the life is swaying.
Yeah.
It's really good to see people's different opinions and to see all that sort of stuff. It's nice. You get more information to teach your children.
Being open with the shop, with our IVF journey, helped me. Helped the love that my children get, not because they're IVF, because they were a part of our journey. So the love that my children get now,
they're like the little mascots of the shop.
Big proud dad moment. The kids walk in and it's like they're famous. It's like it is pretty cool. Like, they're not famous, but they are within those four walls.
It's beautiful. I love that so much.
Yeah.
But thank you for joining me. It's been fun.
Definitely fun, definitely real.
Very real. That was intense, but I'm glad it allowed you to have a platform to be vulnerable and open and roll.
All I can say is thank you, and I love you like a sister that I've never had, but
I love you.
it is what it is, and I'm so fortunate that you allowed me to be a part of your journey as well.
Thank you. Thank you for being a part of my journey and offering so much support. Love you.
Love you, mate.
Right. Well, thank you so much wherever you're listening from. Have a beautiful day. Peace. And that's a wrap. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I hope you received a few good takeaways from it. If anybody popped into mind while you were listening, please send it across to them. This will really help promote my podcast. To follow everything that I'm doing at the moment, head to my Instagram page, Holistic Healing with Steph Marie. Thanks again, guys. Have the best day, and I'll see you on the next episode for more conversations that are raw, honest, and